198 years, 199 years, 200.
Wait, God, please.
Now, why would you interrupt me in the middle of my favorite meal? Let me guess, you're about to pray for something.
Look, I know you're probably busy doing nothing at all for mankind, but do you think you can free us from slavery now? It's been 200 years.
Ooh, sorry, big dog. I ain't gonna be able to answer that prayer because it'll go against my will for you. But remember, I'll never tempt you beyond what you can bear.
Wait, are you serious? But he just turned my nephew into stew.
Oh, I'm totally aware of all the horrible things that they're doing to you, and I'm totally okay with it. But don't worry, you only got a few more years left. Hold on now, boss. Only a few more years? Well, my prayer is that you send me some niggas that'll never question religion and that you extend slavery even longer. Hey, now that's something I can get down with. You know what? I'll give you 200 more years. But remember, you got to keep up your end of the deal now. Come on now, boss. You know I got you. Now you keep praying, nigga. 201.
Wait, please.
202 years.
God, I know you're clearly busy doing nothing at all, but this preacher keeps taking advantage of me. Could you please deliver me from this suffering?
Now, I know this may sound fucked up, and that's because it is, but I'm not going to do a single thing about this preacher taking advantage of you, even though he claims to be God-fearing.
You know what? Since you're not going to do anything, I'll just go to the police.
Hey, do what you got to do. Whoa, hold on now. I pray that you keep her from exposing the church like that. It's not going to look too good for the organization if this gets out. Besides, we already been on the decline since the whole baby formula incidents. Hey man, as long as you keep brainwashing the masses for me, I'll make sure your secret is safe. Besides, most religious people don't know that their churches have SA insurance.
Support the preservation of a vital cultural tradition. Voodoo faces erasure and misrepresentation in today's world. Your support ensures Voodoo's future and cultural integrity. Help preserve this vital culture today.
Honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. Divine all blessed greetings and salutations. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Powered, produced, promoted, sponsored, and supported by NOIVD, New Orleans International Vodou Day. Become a part of something extraordinary. New Orleans International Vodou Day is not just an event. It is a movement that celebrates culture, fosters education, and connects people from around the globe. By sponsoring this event, you're supporting a tax-deductible cause that preserves heritage, uplifts art and education, and fosters healing within the community and beyond. Your sponsorship goes beyond promoting your business. It demonstrates your commitment to cultural preservation and education while supporting a unique event that brings international recognition to New Orleans. Events like symposiums, Afroecology exhibits, art exhibitions, sacred processions, and global speakers offer unparalleled opportunities to honor history and inspire a brighter future. And we continue to invite your support, your participation, your volunteership, your donations, and your sponsorship by visiting us at www.voodooday.org, www.vodouday.org. And please find our new link at the top of the page, Live Voodoo Hoodoo 101, powered by NOIVD, where you can watch the live podcast as well as the archive podcast directly from our website. We also have launched a GoFundMe account and page. So please do visit us at GoFundMe or gofund.me/A as in Apple, 8791 D like David, 7C2. That link is at the bottom of your screen. And again, we continue to appreciate your continued support, love, volunteership, donations, and sponsorship, and as well as your participation in the live podcast. Thank you for continuing to support us and showing up here in the live chat. Our beloved Daniel Neal, faithful member of our community. Nina Lloyd, greetings and salutations to you and yours. We certainly are always appreciative of all of our Facebook listenership by way of my page, Elder Reggie's Green Soap and Shrine of the White Cloth page, Queen Mother Sister Toni Val Martinez, Black New Orleans Then and Now, certainly Bianca Johnson Plessy, our international audience by way of LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter X, and certainly Instagram. We are grateful and appreciative of your continued support. And again, visit us at www.voodooday.org for more information. As well as now you can visit our GoFundMe page to support this powerful and dynamic programming. Tonight, we're going to pick up and do, I guess you can say, a part 2 of where we left off on last night in regards to spirit possession under the advice and motivation of Elder Reggie. Tonight, we want to talk about the difference between spirit possession and trance or mounting of spirit. And when we speak of spirit possession in West African Vodun, Haitian Vodou, and New Orleans Voodoo, we must also speak of its cousins, states that look similar from the outside, but are fundamentally different in purpose, depth, and spiritual authority. Too often people collapse everything into one word, possession. But in our tradition, language is precise, experience is layered, and the body is capable of many states that are not the same, even if they appear similar to the untrained eye. So today we go deeper. Today we talk about the difference between spirit possession and trance, and the difference between being mounted and simply entering an altered state. Because understanding these distinctions is not just academic, it is essential for safety, for respect, and for the integrity of the tradition. So let us begin with the highest state, true spirit possession. In Vodou, and Voodoo, possession is not something a person does. It is something the spirit does. It is the descent of a divine force into the body of a prepared, chosen, and momentarily available vessel. It is the spirit taking the reins, not symbolically, not metaphorically, but literally. The person's consciousness steps aside and the spirit's consciousness steps forward. The voice changes, the posture changes, the knowledge changes, the energy in the room changes, and the community recognizes the presence not by theatrics, but by the unmistakable signature of the spirit itself. True possession is rare. It is sacred. It is not something to chase. It is something to honor. Now let us contrast that with trance. Trance is a human state. It is a shift in awareness brought on by rhythm, sound, breath, emotion, or ritual intensity. Trance can be light, like drifting into a daydream, or deep, like entering a meditative tunnel where the senses blur and the world softens. Trance can prepare the body for possession, but trance itself is not possession. In trance, the person is still present. They may sway, cry, shake, or feel overwhelmed by energy, but they are not replaced. They are not speaking with the voice of a spirit. They are not carrying divine authority. They are simply in an altered state. Trance is natural, trance is common, and trance is not a failure or a lesser experience. It is simply different. Then we have mounting, a term often interchangeably with possession, but which actually has its own nuance. To be mounted is to be ridden by a spirit. Yes, but mounting describes the moment of descent, the transition, the crossing of the threshold. It is the moment when the spirit takes hold of the body. In Haitian Vodou, this is the moment when the Loa leaps onto the shawal or the horse. In West African Vodun, it is the moment when the Vodun settles into the vessel. In New Orleans Voodoo, it is the moment when the spirit comes through. And mounting is the doorway. Possession is what happens once the spirit has fully entered the room. But here is where the diaspora adds complexity. In the Americas, under the presence and pressures of enslavement, colonization, and colonial blending, people developed a wide range of spiritual states that sit between trance and possession. Some of these states are emotional release. Some are ancestral memory rising to the surface. Some are the body responding to rhythm and heat. And others are the spirit touching the edges of the person without fully entering. These states are powerful, meaningful, and valid, but they are not the same as full possession. This is where protocol becomes essential. In West Africa, elders can tell immediately whether someone is in trance or truly possessed. They know the signs, they know the behaviors associated with each voodoo. They know the difference between a body overwhelmed by energy and a body carrying a deity. In Haiti, the community watches for the signature gestures, the speech patterns, the preferences, the taboos of each Loa. They know when Ogu has arrived versus someone is simply caught in the fire of the drums. They know when Erzali has descended versus when someone is expressing their own grief or longing. And in New Orleans, where possession often happens in smaller circles, the distance is maintained through observation. The distinction is maintained through observation, lineage, knowledge, and the wisdom of ancestors who have seen the spirits come and go for decades. The protocols exist to protect the person and to honor the spirit. Because if someone is in a trance, they need grounding, cooling, and care. But if someone is possessed, they need attendants who know how to serve the spirit itself and how to offer water, adjust clothing, interpret messages, and maintain the dignity of the divine presence. Confusing the two can lead to harm. Confusing the two can lead to ego, and confusing the two can lead to disrespect. And so we teach the difference. Spirit possession is the spirit acting through the body. Trance is the body responding to spirit. Mounting is the moment of transition, and altered states are simply part of the human spiritual spectrum. All are valid, all are real, but as they are not interchangeable. And when we understand these distinctions, we protect the tradition, we protect the people, and we protect the sacred relationship between the human and the divine. As I ask my beloved co hosts to begin to unmute and come on into the conversation, we understand that possession is not a performance, it is not a badge of honor, it is not something to force or to fake. It is a covenant. It is a responsibility. And it is a moment when the invisible becomes visible, when the divine steps into the world through flesh and bone. And when it happens, I mean, when it truly happens, the community knows it, the elders know it, the spirits know it, and the body becomes a temple, not of trance, not of emotion, but of presence. And again, we're certainly grateful for the attended support and honor of having our beloved Queen Mother Bianca Johnson Plessy, initiated member of La Source Haitian on 4, also a active co-administrator of NOIVD. We unmute Queen Mother Sister Toni Val Martinez, community mother, community activist, community agitator, and I like to say community agitator. She always comes through to shake things up. And our beloved elder Reggie, we identify as Green Soap on this platform, leader and founder of Shrine of the White Cloth, a committed team member of NOIVD. And we certainly appreciate again your attention and your support. How you doing, Queen Mother? Come on in.
Hello, how you doing? Hello, everyone on the panel and in the listening audience. Well, you know, Hollywood got us messed up. I have a question, okay? Bear with me. On these movies and stuff, they show us in a seance type setting, and whoever is the leader of the seance goes into a trance. And then the next thing you know, it's like they get possessed by a spirit. Can that really happen when you're in a trance, that a spirit can inhabit you while you in the trance and come forward?
It can, but it's rare. And we've demonstrated over the decades really that it's often unauthentic. You almost described verbatim, sort of back Abraham Lincoln's time, and then even into the early, 1900s, when psychics and seances were sort of pop culture among mostly white folk, but among the community in general. And so you had, seances, and people would clasp hands, often with a crystal ball or some other object like a bowl of water in the center of the table. And then the said practitioner would go into a, supposed trance, and then would be said to bring forward spirits of the dead, ancestors, etc. And as Elder Reggie has mentioned on previous podcasts, we do have misas, or what we call the white table ceremonies, where we invoke spirits of the dead, spirit guides, etc., in a very similar fashion. But again, we have elders and experienced practitioners that often test the experience, and you're typically not even given the space to go into like a full possession unless it's authentic. What say you, Elder Reggie? Can you hear me? Are you with me, Elder Reggie?
You know,
Divine Prince, can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I think it's my internet. I apologize for that. Okay. Thanks, Divine Prince. I am so grateful for the show tonight because you're touching up on some pertinent things to me. And Sister Toni, Sister Bianca, I see Nag going in and out in the collective audience because I am heavily invested into spiritualism, and that's why I wanted to talk about trance a little bit. And when I am doing spiritualism, my immediate ancestor lineage, or my egg bed, as we call it, then I'm in a trance state of doing this dialogue. And that is a little bit different than possession. And I am so grateful that we brought this topic up with part 2, because a lot of people are going through trance states of doing things, and it's not truly possession. Also, the way I do divination, the way I was trained to do it, in my left hand I have a rattle, and in my right hand I have a bell. I will shake those spiritually until I'm into a trance or altered state of being. When I'm in that altered state of being, there's a spirit that meets me there. I'm not possessed. It's also showing me things, but it's a trance state because I'm still fully conscious and cognitive of my surrounding, of my client. And so I appreciate you doing this show tonight. You know, the difference between trance, between mounting, and between possession. Sister Bianca, you have any questions around this?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. So, and I am glad that
Mhm.
we are able to do, like you said, a second part to it because I feel like there is so many different things, like information and stuff that need to be explained or just questions that need to be answered because there is a lot of misunderstanding and stuff too. Like you said, the difference between the trance and possessions. One thing that I do um want to know and have a question about is, you know how like in the old tradition ways, how when you talk about in Haiti and in Africa, um different groups and stuff, a lot of the people have like a place where they will come to meet, like when they do ceremonies or initiation, or like they have like a sacred temple or an outdoor space where everyone will come to. And that is just like when you have the elders or anyone that come
Mhm.
to those sacred places to do these type of ceremonies. And that is the time where they do have possessions that take place from the different loas. But now you are starting to see where some people are doing like meetings or different ceremonies, even if it's just in like a small space or apartment or homes or like like different places like yoga studios or meditation places that don't really bring like a sacred area how we will come together for ceremonies. Now, my thing is when they do like possessions of from the lowest, can the lowest still meet people where they are at in those different spaces, or do they still require um a certain tradition in those sacred temples or outdoor spaces to be honored for those type of possessions to take place?
They certainly can
Can I take a
require.
shot at it, Divine Prince?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So add to it being, yeah. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. What I can add to it is, let's say, as an EFI practitioner, the Orisha's not gonna meet you in a, let's just say, a Zumba dance class or a yoga studio, because the energy is not being invoked, the energy not hearing certain rhythms, so they're not gonna meet you there. I'm not saying it's not impossible, but normally they won't show up there. When we call, as Divine Prince said earlier, if you call for a Misa, a Bembe, you are telling these spirits to be on alert, because we're gonna bring the drums, we're going to bring the song, the dance that you like. So show up and come party with us. Therefore, when they show up there in those type spaces, you could see trance and you could see possession take place.
Mm.
And
I
there are
have a
indeed
question.
rules and protocols as it relates to these organized systems, like Lukumi, Santeria, West African,
Mm-hmm.
Vodou, Ifa, Yoruba. There certainly are rules, protocols, certain expectations demonstrated by the person who might be mounted by deity, but then also by those who are witnessing, um, the demonstration. certainly the members of the community, the members of the house, the initiated members all know how to respond and how to respond uh, appropriately. Typically, someone visiting or an audience member would not be involved in that process unless, of course, they're being mounted themselves by spirit. And again, those experienced members would then come to the aid of that individual.
I have a question about the mounting. I know a lot of people, especially in the Black community, have this thing about a witch riding them while they're asleep. And a lot of times they'll use the term mounted. A witch tried to mounted me last night. Is that the same thing you're speaking of?
No, no, and you're referencing like what we used to call the hanks, and other troublesome spirits that can disrupt your sleep. It can also be a symptom of what they now call sleep paralysis, and sleep paralysis can take on many forms of in and out of consciousness, between consciousness, and typically your body becomes sort of temporarily paralyzed or suspended. People do have visitations, it is said, during some of those occasions, but no, that is not the same thing as mounting a lowa or an orisha who's not trying to paralyze you or freeze you, but to communicate and interact with you and those present in the room. And typically, the person mounted won't remember anything afterwards.
Okay. What you have to say on the subject, Brother Joshua?
Good evening, everyone. Honor and respect. I just had, I wanted to bring up something and try to get, since you guys are asking questions, a question I had. I think I've talked to, me and Prince has talked about this in past time. Um, but concerning not so much mounting, but I guess transing out in the space, in the ceremonial space, is it usual that you see two participants trans out on a low? I don't know if you guys talked about this already, but is it what is the traditional not so much the protocol, but what happens in those spaces when um, in ceremonial spaces where you're calling in a low? Um, is it common that it takes on two people or multiple people interacting within that space?
It can affect multiple people, but again, it's rare, and you typically in
So
Haiti,
you're seeing like
where
two
you
or
have a
three people
larger
getting
community,
possessed? I'm not
larger
clear on what's happening.
gathering, and people who are much more experienced
Okay.
with the process, you certainly might see multiple persons being taken possession by the same deity or different forms of the deities. These deities, for example, Legba, there's many personalities and avatars of Legba.
Yeah.
Eshu or Legba, there are many personalities and avatars of these deities. So you can see an authentic demonstration of more than one person sort of being taken over, by that spirit. But I find here um, in the South, Louisiana, Mississippi, and perhaps in the U.S. in general, there's sort of this fear, this apprehension, this anxiety around spirit possession, spirit mounting, even in the church as it relates to catching the Holy Ghost, as we discussed last night. And so people will often almost subconsciously seek to limit the demonstration or shut down the demonstration. And there certainly may be a focus on just one individual, one person, particularly if the demonstration is seen to be authentic. But I have witnessed Haitian ceremonies where more than one person certainly can manifest the same spirit or different avatars of the same spirit simultaneously. I have not been to West Africa, so I have not seen that in person or in video. Elder Reggie may have witnessed it, but I have not.
So, what would you say would be? I mean, would that be a trance or a possession? Say for instance, I'm gonna give like example of my grandmother. So when I was younger, my grandma was of course she was into, like praying and reading the Bible and cleansing the house or just when anything happened, candle work and all that type of stuff. And sometimes if my grandmother was in the house when she had to deal with different spirits or just anything like that, she'll go into like a deep prayer session. But it was weird how to explain it because when she get to praying certain things, it seemed like her words when she start off slow, but then when she's like fighting against something, it's like she'll start speeding up, like she'll start talking and praying and speeding the words up really fast that it comes to the point that you don't understand what she's saying, and then it'll start sounding like she's speaking in tongues. And it has been some moments when I would see, her eyes roll to the back, like she's kind of shaking, but then she starts speaking in tongues, like start saying shama lama mama mama, like I don't know, like shama mama mama mama, lama mama mama mama. And I'm like, what is she saying? But she's stuck in the like, I don't know if it's a trance or possession. Then later she'll snap out of it and say, all right, well, I done fought them battles. Now they can go ahead and get on up out of here. And I'll be like, what the hell just happened? So in those situations, like what would that be? Like,
There is also the demonstration of channeling. And you
okay.
almost were describing someone with a gift to channel.
Mhm.
And channels can pass spirits of the dead, um, but could also pass spirits from other sort of dimensional spaces. Certainly, angels, but may very well also be able to interact with various jinn. But you sort of are describing what sounds to me much more akin to channeling, and channels can pass a variety of spirits depending on their depth of connection.
Okay, like I'll do what I call zoning out. And it usually just happen when I'm extremely bored, like in an office meeting. And I'm sitting there and I'm well aware and I can hear the conversation, but really I'm not there and I'm not seeing the room. And people have to say, Toni, Toni, Toni. And I'll be like, what? Is that kind of the same thing as like I went into a trance?
Yeah, that's a bit of a trance. I mean, people can literally sit at the traffic lights and go into a temporary trance, not a possession. Because if you were possessed, you'd lose control of your vehicle, or you would lose yourself momentarily, often without memory. Channels can go into a trance-like state, but then their sole purpose is to relay messages, um, usually complex messages that can sometimes be written down through automated writing. I have actually a automated writing gift where I can go into a trance, and my arm will sort of freely move, and then after the session, we then interpret what's written or what's often drawn, because my automated writing often manifests as drawings, complex, deeply symbolized drawings. So you're suggesting, trancing, a daydream can be considered a bit of a trance when you lose temporary consciousness to what may be immediately happening outside of you. Now, it doesn't mean that you aren't aware or you don't necessarily hear, but there's a sort of a blurring between the lines, the dimensional spaces, if you will, during that trance. So you may see a vision, you may have a memory, you certainly may be receiving a message or a channel, provided you've had some degree of experience with that. So yeah, you describe, trance.
Now, the longest one I had like that, I can remember, I was at St. Mary's Academy, and it was a history class that they was telling some lies about. So I looked out the window. At that time, there was a lot of swamp and stuff behind St. Mary's Academy in the 70s. And I had focused on this white egret bird. And I went out, and they told me in the class, I don't know how long I've been out, but the classmates told me that when the sister finally got me to notice her, I stood up and said, "Don't nobody want to hear this bullshit," and walked out the class. And that was my last day at St. Mary's Academy. I took and walked down the highway, caught the bus, and left. But I was gone, and I never went back. But I was gone. The last thing I remember was the white bird that I was focused on. And one of the classmates called me later on and said, "Girl, it was calling for you for a long time." Somebody said you was having a seizure, because they do have those type of seizures where people just look like they zone out. But I stood up and said, "Don't nobody want to hear that bullshit." Walked out the class, walked out the highway, caught the bus, and never returned.
It's interesting though that you were triggered by, sort of the egret, which looks a lot like Thoth or Tahuti in ancient Egyptian language and symbolism. And I remember, some 35 years ago or more, when I was really into, advancing my spiritual growth and was studying ancient Egypt and various deities, really from all over the world. I would often be triggered by seeing them, out in nature. I might be sitting in a park or by a waterway, meditating. The bird would approach, and it would trigger memories, visions of past life events, often deeply cultural and emblematic of Kemet, Meroe, Ethiopia, Egypt, but that seemed to have lessened once I began opening up, my head and my consciousness to West African powers and deities. Now I will still see an egret, down near the river, Audubon Park, and still sort of have an emotional trigger to it, but it doesn't quite trigger the visions quite the same that it did back in my younger years when I was, really deeply versed in Heka and Kemetic math and symbolism and the like. But I have developed a relationship to nature in general. So, for example, birds can communicate divination based on the timing, the number of birds, the direction in which they approach you or flee from you, etc. But again, these were skills and abilities that I had to develop over time, and after having been exposed to many books, practices, traditions, and experiences that sort of helped me to make it make sense, if you will.
Well, it's been a very interesting show, and our time has come to an end for tonight. I want to turn it over to the Divine Prince so that he can thank our listening audience, and then he will turn it over to Elder Reggie for the announcements and words of wisdom.
And yes, tonight we will have part 3, spirit possession. This segment will focus on how communities safely support possession and trance, the protocols, the rules, and the responsibilities that protect both the human vessel and the divine presence. So please do join us tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time on a social media platform near you, any of our Facebook profiles, groups, pages where you might be able to see the link posted. Certainly, we're thankful and appreciative of our international listenership in LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, and certainly Instagram. And you can also listen and participate by way of the QR code in the upper right corner of your screen, which will allow you direct access to the panel. And thank you so much, Black Sacrifice, for joining us this evening. Lisa Chanel, 5264. Noob Ami Sayade Sun. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Thank you so much for joining us. Amanra 14, greetings and salutations. Lola Shakur, peace and blessings and protection to you and yours. Kabdullah, greetings and salutations, divine health and wellness. King, the husband material, thank you for continuing to join us and support us. Negrita 112, we certainly appreciate your visitation. Lone Arrow 56, greetings. Joker OTV 2026, we appreciate you. IOHD Harma, I'm not quite sure how to say that. Thank you for coming through. In Ifa, I trust. Greetings and salutations to you and yours. Pure Trust 247, we appreciate you. Nia, thank you for coming through. And Old Law joined. And again, we certainly appreciate your attendance, your support, your donations, your sponsorship, and your volunteership, as well as your sharing, resharing, clicking like, share, reshare, and subscribe at the bottom of your screen on whichever social media platform that you are experiencing us from. Again, we certainly do appreciate you. And this is Carnival season. Fat Tuesday is this coming Tuesday, Mardi Gras Day. My schedule is overwhelming. After all these years, people still manage to show up in town last minute without any warning, expecting a sitting with me. And so they're showing up at the door, and I certainly have a sign on the door by appointment only, asking that you please visit my website, submit an email request so that I can properly prepare for your visits. But we certainly appreciate you, Brother Joshua, and I certainly appreciate your continued support and visitations. And please continue to come to the city in support of Carnival season and certainly Mardi Gras Day. I'm now going to turn it over to Elder Reggie, leader and founder of Shrine of the White Cloth. You can visit his Facebook group by way of facebook.com, Shrine of the White Cloth. Thank you so kindly, Elder Reggie.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah. We have a large selection and variety of Santa Muerte statuaries available at the Island of Salvation, Botanica. That address is 2372 St. Claude Avenue in New Orleans, Louisiana. And we always mention the NOIVD podcast, which is awesome. Our next new moon ritual prayer and application in the zodiac of Pisces at 6:30 p.m. Location 710 Clewitt Street. What we do is a ritual spiritual warfare gathering and ritual. If you're local or in the area, please come out and visit. With that, we say, lest we forget. The spiritual medicine of voodoo brings healing and relief from the shackles of slavery that binds the master and the slave to the same chain of social division. But before I go to the Ashes, if anyone in the collective audience feel like they are having altered state of consciousness or light trance and want more spiritual, reach out to all the platforms Divine Prince have on the show each night. We are training, we're learning to help others, please. With that, I say, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Good night, everyone. We love you all, and we'll be back tomorrow night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, in Odabo.
198 years, 199 years, 200.
Support the preservation of a vital cultural tradition. Voodoo faces erasure and misrepresentation in today's world. Your support ensures Voodoo's future and cultural integrity. Help preserve this vital culture today. Support the preservation of a vital cultural tradition. Voodoo faces erasure and misrepresentation in today's world. Your support ensures Voodoo's future and cultural integrity. Help preserve this vital culture today.
Please, allow me to show you something.
They say I'm crazy. pussy, and that might be true. I got this right in my DNA, yeah, I'm coming for you. It's time we turn the tables, flip these motherfuckers on you. I wanna see you hanging from trees, it's time you pay for your dirt and your showtime. You created the monster, you created the beast. Now all this savagery you just gon' reap. I'm coming home, daddy, to the plantation, and I'm taking the lives of everybody, including the children, on some Nat Turner away. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. I met my girl Harriet at the gate. If you wanna know how she doing, yeah, she straight. But she had one question: when we gon' get up? All that talking tough, yeah, we don't walk it tough. She got it locked and loaded, got that piece up on her side. She looked me in my eyes and said, "Meet you ready to ride?" Moving forward, you gotta use both eyes. Watch your front and watch your back. Keep your hands up on your gas. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. He sit at the table, but he don't order no bacon. He greet me in those words, assalamu alaikum. Got them glasses on his face and them waves in his head. He go by the name of Detroit Red. He looks me in my eye and says, you only get one try. Know that your biggest opposition will come from the inside. I know you wanna love them all, but don't even try, because they'll smile up in your face while plotting your demise. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down.